It was just another quiet afternoon in a small neighborhood when everything changed in a matter of seconds. A young black man, walking home from work, suddenly found himself surrounded by flashing lights and raised voices. Confused and scared, he froze as two officers jumped out of their car, hands already on their weapons. Tension filled the air, thick enough to cut through. The man tried to explain, but the words barely left his mouth before he was being yelled at to get on the ground. His heart was racing. He didn't know what was happening or why. He just knew one wrong move could cost him everything. People nearby began to gather, pulling out their phones, unsure of how this would end. The man slowly lowered his hands, trying not to make any sudden movements. That's when one of the officers noticed something, just barely peeking from his wallet as it fell to the ground. A small badge. Not a police badge, but one with meaning. One that changed everything. It was the emblem of the United States Marine Corps. The moment their eyes met again, something shifted. The officer paused. The tension didn't disappear, but for a second, everything felt like it was hanging in slow motion. What happened next? No one could have seen coming. The officer stepped back slightly, his eyes locked on that Marine Corps badge like it didn't belong there. The man, still on the ground, breathing hard, didn't move. His mind was racing, thinking about his mom, his little brother, everything he had worked for. He wasn't sure if that badge would help him or hurt him even more. He had served his country, wore the uniform with pride, but in this moment, it didn't seem to matter. Not to the officers, not yet. One of the officers muttered something into his radio, while the other kept his hand close to his holster. The crowd started getting louder, some shouting, others just recording silently. People were asking what he did, why this was happening, but no one had an answer. The man's name was Marcus. He had just come back from his last deployment 6 months ago and was trying to settle into a normal life again. He was tired, still carrying the weight of what he saw overseas, still waking up at night from dreams that didn't feel like dreams. Now here he was, lying on the sidewalk in his own country, not as a hero, not even as a citizen, but as a threat. His past, his service, his sacrifice, none of it seemed to matter. Not in this moment, not yet. Marcus kept his eyes low, his body still. You could hear the whispers in the crowd now. Some recognized him. A few neighbors started to step forward, trying to speak up, saying, "Asterisk, he's a veteran. He lives here. He's not a threat." Asterisk, but the officers didn't back off. One of them kept scanning the scene, nervous, unsure if this was spiraling out of control or if he'd already lost control the moment the guns were drawn. Back at the precinct, both officers had been under pressure lately. Tensions in the city were rising, too many viral videos, too many bad headlines. Officer Daniels, the older of the two, had been warned just last week to be more aware of optics. But out here on the street, with adrenaline pumping and a crowd watching, training didn't always match reaction. His partner, younger and newer to the job, hadn't said a word since pulling his weapon. His jaw was tight, eyes locked on Marcus, like he was waiting for something to go wrong. Marcus's badge wasn't just metal. It was a symbol of the life he left behind. His service in the Marines had taught him how to stay calm under fire, but this wasn't a war zone. Or maybe it was, in a different way. He'd seen fear in enemy eyes before, but seeing it now, in the eyes of the people sworn to protect him, felt worse. The crowd was pressing in closer now, not physically but emotionally, voices rising, phones pointed, hearts pounding. A few people were pleading with the officers to put their weapons away, but neither of them moved. The younger cop's hand stayed tight on the grip of his gun, his eyes darting between Marcus and the people around them. The Marine Corps badge still sat on the pavement, untouched, as if it didn't belong in this kind of moment. Marcus could feel the concrete beneath him, cool against his skin, but his mind was back in Afghanistan. He remembered a checkpoint just like this. Nervous hands, weapons drawn, nobody trusting anybody. Only this time, it was happening here, on a street he grew up walking as a kid. He could hear kids nearby crying, their parents holding them close, shielding their eyes. Officer Daniels took a step forward, voice lower now, but not calm. Asterisk, what's in your pocket? Asterisk, he'd asked. Marcus didn't move. Asterisk, it's just my wallet. Asterisk, he said, his voice firm but tired. Asterisk, it fell. That's where the badge came from. Asterisk. The tension cracked for a second when someone in the crowd shouted, Asterisk, check it. Just check the damn wallet. Asterisk, but still, no one reached for it. No one wanted to make the first move. It felt like everything was one breath away from turning into something worse. Just as the silence started to stretch too long, a third patrol car pulled up fast, lights flashing, tires screeching. A plainclothes officer stepped out, moving quickly but calmly, waving off the others. Asterisk, stand down. That's Sergeant Marcus Bell. He's one of ours. Asterisk, his voice cut through the noise like a blade. The crowd fell quiet for a split second, confused. Even Marcus looked up, not recognizing the man. Officer Daniels froze, uncertainty all over his face. Asterisk, what do you mean, one of ours? Asterisk, he asked, still holding his position. The plainclothes officer held up a file in his hand. Asterisk, special assignment. He's been working with the city's Veteran Outreach Division. I just got the alert about a field contact match. His name flagged in the system as an active veteran support liaison. Asterisk. The tension didn't disappear, it shifted. Daniel's jaw clenched tighter. This wasn't just a traffic stop gone wrong anymore. If this was true, it meant they had nearly pulled a weapon on someone who wasn't just a Marine veteran, but someone the department had directly partnered with. Marcus slowly sat up, his voice cracking. Asterisk, I told you I live here. I told you I wasn't a threat. Asterisk. Before anyone could respond, a woman from the crowd stepped forward, pulling something from her purse. Asterisk, I know him. He helped my son after he got back from deployment. Asterisk, she said, voice shaking. Asterisk, you've got the wrong idea. Asterisk. But the damage was already done, and no one was sure what came next. The street was quiet now, but not peaceful. The plainclothes officer knelt beside Marcus, helping him to his feet as the two uniformed cops slowly backed off, unsure of what to do. Officer Daniels looked shaken, like the weight of what almost happened had finally hit him. The younger cop still hadn't spoken, eyes wide, mouth slightly open like he was still trying to process everything. Marcus dusted himself off, hands still trembling. Asterisk. This is what it's like, asterisk, he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Asterisk, even with the badge, even after everything. Asterisk. The woman from the crowd stepped closer, reaching out gently. Asterisk, thank you, Marcus. Asterisk, she said softly. Asterisk, my son's doing better because of you. Asterisk, her words hung in the air, cutting deeper than any shouting ever could. The plainclothes officer turned toward the others. Asterisk, you almost shot someone the department relies on to rebuild trust with veterans. He's been through more than most of us could imagine. He came back and kept serving, right here in this neighborhood. Asterisk. As Marcus started to walk away, the crowd slowly began to disperse, still whispering, still filming, still wondering how close it had come to ending differently. But just as he reached the end of the block, a voice called out from behind. Not a cop, not a neighbor. A man in civilian clothes, quiet but firm. Asterisk, Marcus Bell. Asterisk, Marcus turned. The man held up a badge, not a police badge. Homeland Security. Asterisk, we need to talk. It's about your last deployment. Asterisk. Everything stopped again. Marcus turned slowly, locking eyes with the man from Homeland Security. For a second, it felt like the street faded away, the sirens, the crowd, even the weight of what just happened. Asterisk, what do you mean? Asterisk, he asked. The man stepped closer, lowering his voice. Asterisk, something came up. It's tied to a mission you were part of. We've been trying to reach you for weeks. Asterisk, Marcus's chest tightened, not from fear, but exhaustion. He nodded silently, knowing the past never stays buried for long. The officers who had nearly drawn on him stood in the distance watching. They didn't approach, maybe out of shame, maybe not knowing what to say. The woman from earlier gave Marcus a small nod before disappearing into the crowd. Life was slowly returning to the block, but the echo of that moment would linger. Later that night, Marcus sat alone in his apartment, badge still on the table, phone buzzing with messages. He stared out the window, thinking about how close he came to becoming a headline. Being a Marine had taught him how to survive chaos. Being a black man in America kept teaching him how to survive silence. In the end, the real fight wasn't just overseas, it was here, every day, in plain sight.